All right, let's get right into it. We're going to look at a cricket score today that, on the surface seems pretty average. But hidden inside that number, 175, is a fascinating story about strategy, awareness, and the art of playing the game that's right in front of you, not the one you planned for in the nets.
And it all really starts with this one big question. Can a team really win a modern T20 match with just 175 on the board? I mean, we see teams smashing 200, 220 all the time. On paper, it just doesn't seem like enough. But as we're about to find out, the answer is way more complicated than a simple yes or no. And you could feel that uncertainty in the stadium. This quote just nails the vibe at the innings break. There was no huge roar from the crowd. The energy was kind of flat. You got the sense that everyone was thinking the same thing. Maybe they're about 20 runs short here. Because that's the number they put on the board, 175. It's respectable, sure. But let's be honest, it's not a score that's going to give a modern batting lineup sleepless nights. It felt defendable, but definitely not a fortress. So what was everyone missing? Well, the answer wasn't just in the number of runs, but in where those runs were scored. The real story here starts with the playing conditions, because the pitch and the ground were basically a giant puzzle that the batters had to solve. So let's break down this puzzle. First off, the square boundaries were long, really long. So just trying to muscle the ball over the side was a tough ask. Then you throw in a heavy, swirling wind, and suddenly going for a big six feels like a massive gamble. And on top of all that, the pitch was a bit sluggish. The ball just wasn't zipping onto the bat for easy power hitting. All this created what we call a singles and doubles surface. And what that really means is this was not a pitch for brute force. No way. This was a thinking person's game. It was all about finesse, about finding gaps, and being fit enough to turn those easy ones into twos. That was the only way you were going to keep the scoreboard moving. And wow, this chart shows you just how much the team as a whole struggled to solve that puzzle. Just look at this breakdown. A massive 36% of the entire innings were dot balls, 0 runs scored. Another 38% were just singles. That means for nearly 3/4 of the time, the scoring was either completely stalled or just crawling along. That is not a recipe for success in T20 cricket. So you've got this team-wide struggle, right? And this is where our story gets really interesting, because it zooms in on two key players and two totally different approaches to the exact same problem. One player tried to force his usual game, and the other, well, he just adapted. Okay, let's talk about Surya first. Now, we all know he's a phenomenal 360-degree player, full of energy. On paper, you'd think this kind of pitch rewarding hard running was tailor-made for him. But for whatever reason, on this particular day, his whole approach just seemed out of sync with the conditions. And this one number, tells the entire story. An incredible 83% of the deliveries he faced were either dot balls or singles. Just let that sink in. He was basically stuck in first gear, trying to play his explosive power game on a surface that just wasn't having it, and it completely killed his momentum. And right there is the perfect contrast. While one player was stuck in this high-risk, low-reward loop, Ishan Kishan came to the crease and looked like he was batting on a completely different planet. From the very first ball, you could just tell he understood the assignment. It wasn't about power, it was about placement. Which brings us to the blueprint itself. We've got to do a deep dive into Ishan Kishan's innings, because it wasn't just a good knock. No, this was a strategic masterclass on how to crack the code of this pitch. I love this quote because it gets right to the heart of it. Kishan's innings wasn't defined by how hard he swung the bat, but by how smart he played. It was pure, unfiltered situational awareness, recognizing what the pitch demanded and then executing it perfectly. So to really understand his impact, let's just set a quick baseline. The entire team, over all 120 balls, hit a total of 19 fours. Okay? Keep that number in your head. 19. Now, look at this. Of those 19 fours, Ishan Kishan hit 10 of them, by himself, more than half. The rest of the team combined only managed 9. That is an absolutely incredible stat. It shows you he was finding gaps that literally nobody else on the field could see. And his dominance didn't stop there. The team hit 6 sixes in total, he hit half of them. The team ran 6 doubles, which we already said was a key strategy here. He ran 4 of them himself. He wasn't just contributing to the score, he was practically building it single-handedly. This chart of his innings is so revealing. Over 85% of his runs came from high-value scoring, fours, sixes, and those hard-run twos. Unlike the team's overall stats, he wasn't getting bogged down with singles. Every scoring shot felt intentional and really, really impactful.
And when you put the two innings side by side like this, the numbers are just so stark. Kishan scored more than double the runs in only about 10 more balls, smashing 10 fours and 3 sixes. It's a textbook example of efficiency versus struggle. And here's the most important point. Nothing about Kishan's innings felt like an accident. He wasn't just closing his eyes and hoping for the best. He was picking his spots, using the pace of the ball, and deliberately crafting an innings that was perfectly suited to win the game. And that all brings us to the ultimate lesson from this match, one that goes way beyond cricket. In any sport, you're not just playing against the other team, you're also competing against the environment itself. This quote just sums it all up perfectly. Ishan Kishan didn't just play well. He wrote the manual, the actual blueprint for how to succeed on that pitch on that day. And because of his blueprint, that underwhelming score of 175 was more than enough to win. And that's really the key takeaway here, isn't it? The path to victory wasn't about swinging for the fences and trying to overpower the conditions. It was about understanding them, adapting to them, and ultimately, just flat out outthinking them. So, I'll leave you with this thought to chew on. We spend so much time celebrating raw strength, incredible speed, and natural talent. But maybe, just maybe, the greatest superpower any athlete can have is pure, unfiltered situational awareness. Makes you think, right?